Welcome to the series of videos I'd like to call Why Do I Like a Particular Ship or the Warships. In this case, why I am different to American Class 2 destroyer Sampson. Well, let's look at the Sampson itself. Here we go. As you can see, it has 4 torpedo launchers, right here. Each one has 2 tubes, so you got 4 torpedoes. You can launch them either side independently. So before you don't need to wait to reload. You can just launch one side, other side. Looks great, right? If you look at the guns, you got 1 gun on the back and 3 guns here. Again, looks pretty good. And if you look at this actual statistics of the guns, we got 102mm guns, reload time 7 seconds, not bad. Turn time 15.7 seconds, also not bad. You know, moderate enough damage, it's good enough for destroyer, so that's good. Body wise, what we got, 9100 hit points. Armor is 6 to 13mm. That's, paper thin, but then that's a destroyer. All the other destroyers are the same way. Torpedoes, reload time 23 seconds. Fast reload time, great. Decent enough damage on the torpedoes. I've seen them do quite a nice damage. Torpedo speed 54 knots. Torpedo range 5 kilometers. Speed is good. Range is not so good. And I'll talk about that more. Let's see, firing range 8.6 kilometers, and the speed is 29.5 knots. Now, sounds like there's only one that's a good thing, and it is torpedo range. Yeah, and that's a lot. That's a big thing. So, the note I need to make. The firing range was, I think historically 14 kilometers. The range of torpedoes historically was 15. The speed of torpedoes was about 36-ish, I think, knots, not 50. So, the ship has been modified for the game to make it playable, I guess, on not game breaking. Well, let's go into battle and we'll talk more about the problems of the ship. Why it makes me indifferent. I don't hate it, but I'm not really liking it either. So historically, Sampson was the last one. As you saw, it had that front of it, a big type of a rise on the front. That was the last type of destroyer in the US Navy that had that kind of construction. The problem with that was because it acts like a sail, so when the wind blows, it really creates a lot of wind resistance. It was one of those last 1,000-ton destroyers, and it was the second class of the destroyers that they got outfitted with torpedoes. You see, before, not this class, but before one class earlier, the US that did not outfit its destroyers with torpedoes. Next class they started, and then the Sampson was designed already with torpedoes in mind. It was launched in 1916. It served as a training vessel at first because it was a new type of vessel. We're gonna go to the full speed first, and we're gonna try to go around the islands. I think this island, that island will work. And then, in the United States during the World War I, the ship went into service as an escort. It escorted the American troops to Europe, and it's pretty much fought the submarines and provide the security to convoys. That purposes, the Brits outfitted it with the depth charges, because the actual Sampson did not have depth charges originally, and Americans were not really keen on outfitting it with the depth charges. Alright, here we have first enemies. After World War I, it kind of... by that time, US had a lot of the destroyers already, and so this thing was eventually put into reserve, and from there on, in 1930s, was scrapped. It was put in reserve, like I mentioned, because it was already a lot of this type of ships. So US did not see a reason to have any more. That they needed to keep kind of stockpiled, I guess. I'll make a turn. Quite a few enemy ships there, and I just don't feel like they're all gonna start firing, and I just don't feel like actually being destroyed. Why? Because my torpedo range is not that good. Now, what you would have noticed right now also as I was doing the turn, that I lost a lot of speed. Turns are very wide. By the time I turn...
Torpedoes to port. Torpedoes to starboard. Torpedoes to port.
By the time I turn, what happens is that the turn speed is so slow that I don't really need to turn. I would rather wait for my torpedoes to reload. Now we're gonna use our guns, which are pretty good. Deal some damage to the enemy.
The enemy team has taken the lead.
I walked into it. I need to get out of here. Alright, I'm gonna go speed boost and let's try to get
Engine
out.
boost activated. Critical engine damage. Problem solved, sir. The ship is on fire.
Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. As you can see, this is a problem. If I really want to get in within effective range of torpedo, I have to get very close to the enemy. And I should have actually fired ahead. I should have assumed that the guy's gonna start moving, but I didn't. So, not that, but on me. But the issue is that if I want to get in within effective range, I get in very close to the enemy. Enemy can fire at me immediately. Not really do much
The
damage.
enemy is about to win.
So I need to have a distracted enemy who is focusing on something else. Then I can fire at that enemy without problems. Right? That's the biggest kind of a downturn of this ship. The fact that if I had the longer torpedo range, I would have enjoyed it. But because I don't, I'm pretty much indifferent to it. Yes, I was able to do a lot of interesting things with it. I'm able to torpedo battleships. I'm able to hit other cruisers and destroyers. Yes, and I was able to use my guns quite often on the destroyers because my guns sink those destroyers, since I found that much more easier to do so than just go in with torpedo duel, since I don't have that much of a range torpedoes. But sadly, like I said, if I wish I had a bit longer range on this on the torpedo. So let me finish the historical section. I was saying that the ship went in reserve because the United States Navy had a lot of them at that point. They don't really needed extra ships. This one was a bit of an older already. It was the first in the series, and then 1930s it got scrapped because, well, there was a naval disarmament treaty, and the United States pretty much scrapped this one. Well, it was already on reserve and nobody was using it, so easy choice to scrap. Alright, well, just why I am indifferent to American class destroyer Sampson, right? The match before this one, I was actually managed to sink 2 ships. Now, that was not done independently, right? So there were other ships involved, but my torpedoes was the ones that in the end sank the ship. But still, like here we have a situation where managed not to do anything at all. Really. Alright, well, thank you for watching.